Hi there. So we're talking about our community helpers this week, and one of my favorite community helpers is a baker or a cook. I love to cook. I'm not much of a baker, but I figured today I may as well give it a shot. So I have right here my uniform for baking. I have an apron, so I'm gonna tie that on. That protects my clothes from getting dirty, and it also helps me keep my ingredients clean. But I need a chef's hat. So I have here a sentence strip, which I'm going to use to make a chef's hat. Sometimes we use them when we make our crowns too for your birthdays, right? Some of you have had birthdays just recently. So I'm gonna measure it for my head, and then I'm gonna staple it. Now for the top, I have a piece of tissue paper. So I am going to take the tissue paper and I'm just going to staple that to the inside. So I'm gonna staple it, start at the back. I'm gonna work its way around. Have you ever seen a chef's hat? They're kind of, a lot of times they're a little poofy, so I figured I didn't have one, but I could use some tissue paper and make it look like that. So now I've done that, I've done it all around. Now I'm gonna just take the back, the corners, and I'm gonna put those inside, and I'll staple it again. And there is my chef's hat. You might want to draw on yours. I have some markers here. I think I might put the first letter of my name. Do you know the first letter of my name? That's right. A for Andrina. So I'm gonna do, start at the top, diagonal line down, jump back up, another diagonal line, and then a line in the middle. And I think I might make a couple flowers on mine, just to make it a little something special. You can put whatever you want on yours. You don't even have to draw if you don't want. So now that I have my chef hat, I think I'm ready to do some cooking. First, I need to wash my hands. I need that kind of snug. So I'm gonna go over to my sink and do some hand washing, and then we'll get started on these ingredients. So I'm gonna point you down so you can start to see. I'm gonna wash my hands and tell you, today we are going to do a little baking of muffins. We have the ingredients here. We've got some flour and sugar and a muffin tin. I also have some salt and some baking powder. Baking powder. And I have a little cinnamon and some brown sugar and, some butter, nice and soft, and an egg. And I don't have any blueberries or things that I could put in it too well, so I figured I did have an apple, because I was making those baked apples that we had last time. So I'm going to give my apples a little peel, and then give them a little chop. Sometimes you guys helped us at school. Maybe you have an apple peeler. Those are cool machines where you can stick your apple right on it and turn, and it peels the apple and makes a nice little coil. I don't have one, so I'm just using a peeler. And there's my apple. I'm going to chop up my apple. You don't need a very sharp knife, probably, but once you have it off the sides, you just want to cut it so you don't have the core. And then you can cut it in little, doesn't need to be too fancy, just kind of small pieces. When I'm cutting, I make sure to curve my fingers in so that I don't cut my fingers. Don't want any of that in there. So I'm gonna chop, chop, chop. You might want to throw in some blueberries. Those would be good. Or some strawberries, or maybe some raisins or nuts. I had some dried cherries, but we kept eating them. So I am going to read my instructions here, and it says I need 2 cups of white flour. So I have this bowl here, and I'll get started with that. So first I need the 2 cups of white flour, so I'm going to open it up. It ran out of flour. I just bought this new one. So I'm going to take my cup measure, and I'm going to measure out 2 cups. So here's the first cup, and here's the second cup. I'm going to keep it handy because I think if I'm making an apple muffin, I might want to add a little crumble on the top. So 2 cups of white flour, 1 tablespoon of baking powder. So here's my baking powder, and I'm going to take my tablespoon, and you guys can always help with this stuff. I know you guys help me out when we're at school when we do some cooking. And a ½ teaspoon of salt. So I'm going to just use half of a teaspoon here. Just a little bit. Now, we can mix this together. These are our dry ingredients. You just want to mix it so it's all combined. Now we have some wet ingredients. So I'm going to crack my egg. You might want to put it into a smaller thing and mix it up a little bit first. That helps. And some butter. Oh, and I forgot my sugar. I need 2 tablespoons of sugar. So here's my sugar right here. I keep it in a big container. 2 tablespoons of sugar. I'm also going to keep that handy because I might need it too. And my butter. So you might have this kind of melted butter. It says to use 1/4 cup, so that's half of a stick of butter. So I'm going to put that in there. And mine isn't quite melted, so I'm going to start it up with a fork. So I'm going to start working it together right like this. Other recipes, instead of butter, use oil. I've seen sometimes our muffins. Since I'm making my muffins apple muffins, I might be adding, I'm gonna add a little vanilla into my muffins. And, oh, I forgot. I knew it was a little dry. I need some milk. So I am going to add, it says 1 cup of milk. So I'm just gonna use this because it's handy. You might have a different, that is a good wet ingredient. That will make this more like a mix. So now that I have it mixing up, I want to add a little vanilla because I know my kids like vanilla in. So I'm going to just put a teaspoon of vanilla, just like that. And I'm going to stir it all up. And once it's all stirred up, then you can add in about a ½ cup of anything that you want. So in mine, I'm going to add in my chopped apples. It's pretty thick. So I'm gonna try and get it all in there so I'm getting some good apples. Don't need too much. Definitely a thick muffin. Looks like muffin mix to me. Now that it's all combined, probably would have been better if that butter was melted, but it's okay. So now I'm just gonna use, I like to use a little spoon, and I'm gonna use a little spoon, and I have a muffin tray here that I have put little liners in. And I realized I had 2. Now I'm just gonna fill up each little muffin with about halfway up. Just a little scoop. And once I have them all filled up, I'm going to make a little crumble for the top. So my crumble is going to have a little brown sugar, a little butter, and a little bit of flour. Oops, that one had a lot. Okay. Sometimes I spray my pan before I put the muffin liners in, so that if it pops over the top, it's okay, it won't stick. But these look pretty solid. Got 3 more to go. And before, oops, get in there. Okay, so I've got 2 more. Second to last one. And the last one. There we go. Some might have a little bit more than the others. Just gonna fill that one up a little bit more. Okay, now that we have that done, now I promised you that I would make a little crumble. So I'm going to take some more of my butter. I'm gonna start with 2 tablespoons. I might need a bit more. I don't want to put too much crumble on it because I don't like things too sweet. I'm gonna take 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, and I'll make that off. And I'm gonna start with a tablespoon of flour. I might need 2 tablespoons. I'm gonna get another fork and mix it together. Here we go. And it'll kind of look like sand a little bit, like clumpy sand. Maybe sand that you play with in the sand table or at the beach, and it sticks to your feet. Soon it will be warm enough to stick your feet in the water. So here's my crumble. I think it looks pretty good. And I'm going to, once I get it all kind of mixed up, I'm gonna put a little bit on each one of my muffins. Do you remember when we made muffins, apple muffins, when we went to Stewart's farm? You guys helped me? Remember, I think the fire alarm went off. It was a little wild. I had butter that was running over. So I've learned my lesson. I'm going to put my muffin tin with a little tray underneath it, so I don't have that problem again. Let's stick that in there. So now we're all set and ready with our muffins. I'm going to put it into the oven. I have the oven set at 360 75 degrees, and I'm gonna put it in for about 20 to 25 minutes, and then we'll be ready to eat. All right, I hope you have fun and make your muffins, and we'll see you again soon. Remember, our community helpers are all over the community. I hope you enjoyed baking with me, and maybe you'll be a baker today too. See you soon.